searching the house now. Persecutions are only going to get worse. Hitler's been elected. The Austrian police is under German control.
Mum, it's terrible. They're closing down your schools in Italy.
I always knew I wasn't fascist enough for him.
You don't understand. They're closing them down in Germany and Austria too. In Berlin, they even burn your books and an effigy of you in a park.
My books being burnt in public in Vienna.
Forget the books, Mario. Only the children matter. What's really worrying me is that we won't be able to stay here any longer. Now that Franco has seized power, we won't be able to work in the tranquility we require here in Spain.
Yes. You're right. We have to flee.
Flee. We have to flee.
We won't flee. We will go to where work awaits us. We will go to the Netherlands. There is a great interest in my educational method there, and a former student of mine, Anna Maria Macaroni, will welcome us there.
I want to leave, Stefan. I can't leave all of this behind.
All of this is nothing.
But it's all I've ever known.
Don't be so nostalgic.
What an ironic thing for you to say.
I know. But in the last few years, we haven't been living here anymore. We've been traveling all over the world, all over Europe on our own.
Exactly. On our own. And why should that have to change? Why should I follow you if I want to stay?
Listen. I need calm. You see, I need calm to write. We need to go to England, the only sane place in all this madness. My success won't protect me here. I'm Jewish. Nothing can change that.
I won't follow you.
Frederica.
Flee if you want. I won't.
Isn't it lovely here, Mario?
Could be worse, I guess.
Is that it?
No, really. We fled Italy because of fascism. We fled Spain because of Franco. For all I care, you could have chosen Germany as our next destination.
This may not be the end of our journey anyway. We may have to go beyond Europe.
My dear Romain Rolland, you will be glad to know that I finished reading your fantastic essay on Gandhi. There is wisdom in the old continent, and there is wisdom beyond it, as I have seen in my travels in South America, and I see it in your essay on Gandhi.
What country were you thinking of?
India. We've been invited by the Theosophical Society. We've got a lot of work to do now. Anna! What a pleasure it is to see you. This is my son, Mario.
Nice to meet you.
Marlene, it's an honor to be working with you again. Speaking of which, we need to organize a conference on education through peace.
Again?
They still haven't understood.
My dear Romain Rolland, I feel so alone. Nobody's responded to my call for a great European convention for free-minded individuals. I feel isolated. Can't write in German anymore. My books are being banned. My books, my notes, my documents, I couldn't bring them with me. Can't even work. And this era is suffocating. I'm too sensitive, too empathetic to the sufferings of the world, and can't concentrate. A house here in Bath is lovely. And so is the British countryside, but can't find real calm in the storm.
Stefan?
My dear Lotte.
Han and Manfred will be coming tonight, but you look worried.
Because I know we'll have to leave.
Instead of thinking of our flight, do something for this Europe you love. I'm only your secretary. I can't do anything. But You're a well-known author.
No. No.
What do you mean, no?
No, you're not only my secretary, you know that. Not a... We've been together, you've given the old man that I am a new impulse. Especially since I divorced Federica, but I don't have much time. Lotta, will you marry me?
Yes.
Run me to the town hall.
We have been talking of peace for years, yet no nation, no government, nobody has taken any serious steps towards building peace. To win peace, one does not only need to win war. As long as men are bellicose, individualistic, unempathetic, and cherishing their material possessions, there will be war. Therefore, the great mission of education is this: to educate for peace.
I would like to get married as quickly as possible.
A white passport?
I was Austrian.
Germany has invaded Poland. It's war.
No, not necessarily.
September the 1st, 1939. War is declared.
We married 2 days later.
We're going to India.
We're going to Brazil.
In cinemas resonates this music.
What a triumphant arrival.
Here, we will be able to work.
It's an honor to meet both of you.
It's an honor to meet you too, Mr. Tagore.
The task that lies ahead of you is immense. Thousands of aspiring teachers want to learn your method, and I'm sure you will teach them all. And Mr. Gandhi has asked me to tell you how glad he would be to meet you.
What a triumphant arrival. People have read your books and loved them. 2 years pass. We're in 1942.
Detained.
That's what they just told me. You'll be going to be placed under house arrest and I'll be put in jail. We're Italians on British territory.
We're not Italians. We're traveling the world for a new education. We will be separated again.
But it will be different. And I will be back soon.
Be strong, my son.
We've been here 2 years and haven't found the tranquility that we were looking for.
Despite our terrace overlooking the lush Brazilian vegetation, despite the ever sunny weather, we're not at rest. And my asthma crises are getting worse.
We'll never find the calm.
And the European reconstruction will take too long. We will never see it.
It's 1942 and the world of my youth is definitely gone. We're not a part of this dawning world.
Yesterday, the Austrian writer Stefan Zweig and his wife were found dead in their house in Brazil. Reports conclude they have ingested a fatal dose of drugs. Despite the horrors of the raging war, newspapers around the world managed to find space to pay tribute to Stefan.
In the last impetus of his life, Stefan did what he had always done. He wrote a book.
A book that looks nothing like what he'd written before.
The world of my youth is definitely gone.
I am Stefan's publisher, and as I learn that he has killed himself, I receive a manuscript.
In his last hours on the European continent, in Paris, Stefan gives a conference in the Marigny Theatre. The room is packed. The title? The Vienna of Yesterday.
The manuscript is called The World of Yesterday.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You probably feel now more than ever a bond to your brother, your husband, your son. As they go to fight in the home front, I have the same feeling, only with Vienna. At the turn of the century stood the Vienna of yesterday, a city epitomizing refinement in the arts and the coming together of mankind. The imperial capital of the Habsburg dynasty embodied stability in the best way I can describe this city. The world I grew up in is by calling it a world of security. Gone were military pretenses. The grandeur of the empire was established through the arts, and we thought that it would stand the test of time in the centuries to come. An artist couldn't dream of a better public, an entire city demanding the best works of art. It was a cosmopolitan public also, brought together not by blood or nationhood, but by this shared enthusiasm for art.
Stefan, are you coming? I have the latest poems from Rilke.
One moment. As teenagers, my friends and I were very passionate about literature.
Rilke really is the best. Young, talented.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more, but I could probably think of at least one thing that I like better than Rilke.
Nietzsche.
Strindberg. Can't be.
Gerhard Hauptmann's last play at the Burgtheater.
The premiere last night was incredible.
Joseph Kainz. Franz Schubert.
Girls.
This whole world would soon come to an end. You see, we were too young, too blinded by our literary pursuits to notice that the world of security was decaying. The empire would eventually crumble in March 1919, and I was there to witness its downfall. It happened in a train station. I was coming back from Austria, or to Austria, from Switzerland after the Great War, and on the platform opposite mine, the Emperor and the Empress boarded a train to never return again to what was once their empire.
End of chapter 1. The world of security. Chapter 2. The school of the last century.
When I left school, I never could have imagined that my career would lead me back to it. I remember very well the strictly aligned benches, the fact that we had to repeat. Once I was 13 years old, my teacher asked,
Miss Montessori, I see you don't want to work. If you did, then perhaps maybe one day you could join the list of great figures whose biographies you have to learn.
"No, I don't want to be famous. I don't want to have to add another biography to the list of things we already have to know." I was born in Ancona in 1870, the year that modern Italy was founded.
My mother was born in Ancona. Until today, I share a great bond with Italy.
I witnessed the buzzing of the streets under the unification, the fever of building a new nation. In my little town of Chiaraval, the woman still went to fetch water from the wells by foot, whilst in the neighbouring town, modernity and progress was springing everywhere. I grew up in between the old world and the new one, and I resolutely wanted to push Italy in this new exciting century, but when I asked my parents...
No! Maria, you can't go to be a doctor. We came to Rome so that you could get some training at this engineering school for boys. And now you change your mind?
I didn't change my mind. I had a sort of realization. I was walking down the streets, and this woman passed by, and she was holding a baby, and the baby was holding this red strip of paper, and the image struck me. It became clear that it was my destiny to become a doctor.
A revelation.
Alessandro, you should be more supportive of your daughter. Did you ask the university president?
Yes, he said no. But I looked him in the eye, And I said, Your Honour, I know it. I will study medicine. And I did. After months of negotiation, I finally started to study medicine. I graduated, and I started working at the orthopedic clinic.
At last, school had ended, and I went to university. I left tradition-bound Vienna and discovered the joys of buoyant Berlin. There, morals were starting to loosen, and people...
Hold on. People? Stefan, I know you don't want to make this book all about you, but you very much experienced the loosening of morals, if you see what I mean.
It's not really relevant.
All your affairs? Perhaps not. But these are your memoirs. You could talk about yourself more.
It's more of a testimony, really.
So, not so much about you then. I'm starting to wonder, will I even appear in that book on your life? I see. You're a very strange man, Stefan Zweig.
I was talking of university, staying true to my idea that a good book exceeds any education. I chose to study philosophy, for it would require the least amount of work. I was finally free to begin my artistic endeavors. I wrote my first stories and poems. They were not very good. Of this period, I only keep one short story, Im Schnee, in snow, close to my heart, for it has an autobiographical dimension. Generally, I cannot settle on anything. A feeling of temporary dominated this period of my life until the end of the First War.
Miss Montessori, I'm Dr. Montesano. We'll be working together. This is your office. The canteen is just over here. And if you follow me this way, you'll be able to see the children we take care of. As you can see, they're underdeveloped. They can't read or speak. They're only attracted to futile activities. They like to eat breadcrumbs off the floor.
But don't they have anything to occupy themselves with?
They don't take an interest in anything.
Not if they don't have anything to do.
Our best professors couldn't make them do anything, I assure you.
It's not a problem of professor or child, but one of method. Ever heard of Itard or Séguin?
Yes.
Then let's get to work.
I don't see how their experiences are related to ours. The story of the boy found in the forest, raised by wolves that Séguin took under his wing, clearly illustrate there was nothing he could do to educate him. He spent his whole life trying to teach him how to read and speak, but only achieved small successes. Some children are idiots in the clinical sense of the word.
Or maybe it was too late. See, in biology, if the caterpillar can't construct a cocoon, or if the butterfly can't burgeon at a precise moment of its life, it never will. They're called sensitive periods. This means that we have to teach the children the proper skills at their proper stages of development.
Knock, knock. I'm looking for the office of the great Dr. Montessori.
You bringing me coffee now?
And letters. Tons of them. People are hearing of the great successes our idiots are making with your method. You will write and repurposing the teaching material of Séguin. It works tremendously well. And also you got an invite for a feminist congress?
That's great news. And I wanted to tell you that I've made an application for the deficient children to sit the same school exams as those of the conventional system. I have a few months and then I'll know how good my method is. But enough for today.
Maria Montessori leaving work. That's an historical event.
Enjoy it. It may not ever happen again. I still have to go to San Lorenzo. They need my expertise on hygiene and psychology. I'll see you then. Thank you for inviting me to the first European Feminist Congress here in Berlin. I have the utmost conviction that now is the time for women to rise up. Women, it is your role in this historical moment to demand the right to vote. Let us be proud. Let us set an example in Italy so that every other civilization would say how great is free Italy, how great that its laws honor women. Women, rise up. Be proud of your country and demand the right to vote. When we will be voting, Italy and all other nations that grant us this right will uphold in glorious colours the lives of their citizens.
Slower.
And when I say women, I mean all women. The dancers and singers and the women who are never named. They exist because men want it. They are the painful symbol of our slavery. These women, the proletariat of love and sex, are the wine, but men are the alcoholics. Women need to emancipate themselves through maternity. Once we recognize the true service they render to our society by raising the next generation, we will be respected. Let us teach mothers the great advances in hygiene, the new lessons from the science of education, and women will represent the future of society. In the end, it all comes down to education.
Dr. Montessori, you recently managed to make a group of mentally deficient children outperform normal children in state exams. How did you manage to do it?
By applying science, by observing and creating a classroom that best suited the needs of the children to learn. I find that people are too much focused on how well the mentally deficient children performed. What really interests me is why the normal children perform so poorly. Isn't there something to be changed?
Dr. Montessori, would it be possible to get a copy of your speech?
I haven't got any.
But the paper in your hand.
It's blank.
So eloquent.
There are your letters. Could I talk to you for a moment?
Don't make this any more difficult than it already is, Giuseppe.
Not.
You've been acting weirdly ever since we decided on what we were going to do. I thought I made it clear. We split up. We never marry anyone again. I'll give the child to a family that I know he'll be well treated.
But
I have work to do.
Are you alright, darling?
Yes, I am going to take on a new job. This property developer in San Lorenzo is undertaking this huge housing project, and he wants me to take care of a kind of school where children will be kept while their parents are at work.
San Lorenzo, one of the filthiest neighborhoods in Rome. Poverty-stricken people, 6 families to every apartment, no water.
Yes, but I believe we could do some good there.
Well, well, well. I see you've made a lot of progress here. The school's only been open a few weeks, and yet everyone is talking about it.
The application of my discoveries at the orthophrenic school here have proved successful.
And, you hired the janitor's daughter as a teacher, even though she is qualified to be one?
That's right. I think it's important that the parents know that she lives here, and that way she can give more impactful recommendations on hygiene and psychology. And she's not really a teacher. I like to call her a directress. She doesn't teach readily-made lessons to the class. She observes them by using the didactic apparatus that I designed and guides them if necessary. Honestly, I'm quite thankful she's had no previous training, otherwise she would have had to unlearn everything that the conventional system would have wanted her to do.
Miss Montessori, my editor is very much interested in your new school. Would it be possible to sit down for an interview?
Yes, absolutely.
So, is it true that children here can do whatever they want?
That is a slight misconception. They are free, and with this freedom comes responsibility. We let our children choose what they want to pick up, which activities they want to go to. And this way, learning comes from interest, which I found to be a very powerful force of education. Each child will have a predisposition to pick up a certain thing at a certain time. And this means that they're able to learn at their own pace without getting cut off by a change in activity.
I imagine such a classroom is quite busy, quite noisy.
Well, it's not. You'd be amazed at how concentrated they are. I find that in conventional schools where they're told to keep quiet, they're louder than my classroom. They're told to stand still and be quiet all day, which is a nonsense considering learning requires movement.
So, no punishment?
No punishments, nor grades. I find these external incentives shifts the attention of the child away from the exercise they have in front of them. It makes them value the reward or the punishment more than the intrinsic joy of learning. And children have a great will to learn. They're curious. It's my job to make sure they have the proper environment and the proper materials so that they can know for themselves when what they're doing is wrong. A didactic apparatus that I designed to stimulate intelligence and interest.
But are you preparing these children for a life after school? A life that hasn't been designed for their comfort or interest, unlike your classroom?
Yes, absolutely. And that is at the core of my methods. What we teach these children is autonomy. Traditional schools teach them to be quiet and stand still and do as they are ordained. But they're not encouraged to explore what they're interested in and are left completely lost and unfit for life after school. What I teach my pupils are important life lessons. I want them to be this new kind of human that this new exciting century requires.
New man, you say? Interesting. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. What did you say your name was?
Benito. Benito Mussolini.
My dear Friederike, there is no ounce of patriotism left in me. The horrors I have seen here at the border make me want this war to end, to stop. My enthusiasm is gone and I am lost. How can I choose between the countries of my language and other countries fighting? How can I choose between the Germany of Goethe, France, where my friends live, and Italy, where my mother comes from? I grow more desperate every day. I don't know what to do. The Europe I knew and loved is crumbling down.
Mother's dead. It is as though a period of my life has ended and another is yet to begin.
When her mother died, she wouldn't leave the room. She'd stay by her side. Not eating anything, just praying for 3 days.
And when she got out, she was wearing a black dress. And from then on, she would not wear anything but black. An everlasting grief, accompanied by a decision not to marry anyone.
But when she emerged, I saw this look in her eyes. This look I'd seen before in my little girl. A new resolution. It shined brighter and fiercer. She was ready to go on and take on some greater, new challenges.
From now on, I will dedicate my life solely to the cause of the child. Anna, do you remember the American press editor that visited us at the Casa? He's invited me to do a US lecture tour, and I think now is the time to do it. We can't stay here in Europe now that the war is raging.
Yes, and it'll be a great opportunity to set up a Montessori association in our terms. Organizations are flourishing there, but I'm afraid they're not strictly adhering to your method and not too much independence.
Great, then let's go. I now have my son under my guard. He will live with me. But I cannot take him with me on this trip. It breaks my heart that we will be separated once again. But it will only be for a few months. And I must not do this for my child, but for all children.
My dear Romain Roland, you will be glad to know that I have found solace in my work. I've begun a new project that encompasses all my moral needs. It's a biblical topic on Jeremiah, as he warns against the attack on Jerusalem and is made a pariah because of it. It is true that many have succumbed to the violence of this war. One of my mentors, my artistic mentor, Verheerden, a figure I admire greatly, has succumbed to the violence of the war as well, and his writings are so fiercely aggressive, so fiercely nationalist, that it devastates me to find that I have lost a friend. Now more than ever, Europe needs a figure who can emerge from this war uncompromised, a figure who will emerge, because when this war will end, there will be a time for reconstruction, and maybe you can be that figure, that moral authority that Europeans so desperately need.
Dr. Montessori!
Mr. McClure, it's a pleasure to see you again. I wasn't expecting such a huge crowd.
Every newspaper has announced your arrival. The American people need new ideas. They're eager to reform education.
I've heard new organizations are flourishing there, but where are we going next?
We have to take a train to California, where your presence at the World Exhibition is very much awaited. Welcome to Switzerland, my dear Stefan Zweig.
My dear Romain Roland, what a pleasure. It's been such a long time since I last met you. It seems that Switzerland is the last remaining place for the free spirits of Europe.
You'll see. We're a great group there gathered by the lake. We write, we publish, we try to prepare the rebirth of Europe. We lay a fertile artistic and intellectual soil for a greater communion of Europeans.
I find it so difficult to work in this uncertain world. It's very challenging, but I've accepted it because it shows me where I stand as an artist and how much I admire your work as a novelist.
Thank you.
You know how much I admire your work. It seems to me that your novels speak to the moral needs of humanity in the 20th century.
It is our duty to stay grounded, to not perpetuate this latent rage against other nations. How long will you be staying with us?
A couple of weeks, and then it's back to the Ministry of War at Vienna. It seems that is the best employment of my talents. What are you working on?
I'm working on an article. More of a manifesto, really. Above the crowd.
This is splendid, marvelous, it's all here. Your vision, your engagement as an artist, a vision of what we should do, no, what we should be. And I find in it the same warmth I get in reading your letters. You see, when I am so desperate and lost, I often find strength and warmth in your words. And I must admit, my dear Roland, of all the people in the world, only my wife and you can save me from myself.
I'm honored. I'm hearing good things about your latest project.
Ah, my play. I hold on to it in the midst of a hurricane. It helps me keep an eye over the horizon.
I think it's a good thing you're undertaking such a work. It seems to me you've been distracted. Your travel and your deference for great authors has prevented you from creating your own work.
It's because I know how little my own work matters. You know, my books, my stories, my poems, they might very well be forgotten. That's why I labor and undertake so much effort to work on things which other artists may consider inferior. I take great pride in having translated your work into German. You know, if I can reach the work of a great artist to a greater audience, then I know that it would have all meant something, that it would have all not been for nothing. I only aim to transmit the strength I find in literary works to a greater audience. I don't want to advance my own career.
That's humble of you. And I thank you for making my works known in German-speaking countries. I have to go now. I'll see you tonight.
Thank you.
Welcome to you all. We are all here gathered for the greatest cause of all, that of the child. I gather many of you have heard of the great successes of my method in Italy. I gather you are here to learn, to embrace a greater cause. When I speak of my method, what I'm really pointing at is a practice. There will be no long abstract lesson here. Actions matter more than words. That is why I have set up a unique classroom. On that platform over there, my assistant Anna Maria Macaroni will be teaching a class of children aged 3 to 6. The walls are made of glass so that any visitor will be able to look in and see the child at work. Don't take my word for it. Observe by yourself. That's how I developed my method of education. By scientifically observing the children, testing new ideas, and seeing what works. If you worry that a constant flow of visitors will distract the child from their work, don't. You will find that they're so focused on the work they have in front of them, that they're completely able to learn in this environment I've created for them. See, everything is accessible at their height. They don't need the help of an adult to reach for the learning material. They can pick it up and put it back into place at will. You will also observe the benefits of having a mixed age group inside the same classroom. This gives children the freedom to learn at their own pace and allows them to benefit from the help of the older children. The standard classroom keeps the children quiet at their desk. It shuts out the possibility of all meaningful exchanges among peers. I want my children to showcase solidarity. An episode that received important coverage is the explosion in writing. In my Casa de Bambini back in Italy, a child picked up a chalk and he began to trace an M on the ground, and then an A, and then an N, and then an O. He read out loud, mano, hand. I know how to write, he cried, and all of the other children came to see and realized themselves too could write. This truly was emotional, but also the result of a long process. Children have been taught how to write over a gradual process. The dexterity of their hand was at first practiced. The tracing of forms was first helped by frames. By the time my children turn 4 or 5, they know how to write. My method allows them to express their full desire for learning. I hope you'll be as thrilled as I am when you see these children grow through learning. I hope that, together, we can bring about the educational revolution that children need.
Did you see? Did you see the Viennese people rising to their destiny? It seemed that so many people, including myself, thought that they were too numb, too lost in their frivolous abundance. But at this time of great reckoning, they have found in them a spirit, and they are working to return this city back to its days of grandeur.
Yes, and I love our new home. It'll be the perfect place to work in the heights of Vienna, overlooking the city through this window and through that one, seeing Germany. It's much calmer here. It's where he will write most of his greatest works. Our Salzburg house became for 20 years a well-oiled machine with the greatest artists from all over Europe coming to do their work. Stefan and I are alone. We work on his books. He wrote numerous short stories, a few theater plays, and a few psychologically incisive biographies.
I just can't believe it. You made me believe you're a rich press magnate, and I come to find that you are broke. You have not fulfilled your contractual obligations, and I have not been paid what I am due. You have taken a great slice of the conference revenue to pay off your debt and have set up an American Montessori Association without my consent.
I never said I was rich. And I'm the one who made you famous here. Without me, no cheering crowds. You say I lied to you just to make money, but that's not true. I did it because Because I believed and still believe in your method. I saw your enthusiasm and I was moved by it. See, ever since I was a student, I strived for enthusiasm. I managed to get into university. See, I'm not like you. My parents were poor and never cared for me. But I realized that some people, the enthusiasts, are the ones who make a difference. They're the ones who change the world. And then I ventured into the press to explain to a greater number all the exciting things happening in our time. But you would not let anyone participate in your educational revolution. So afraid that your method would be misunderstood or corrupted, that you insist on being the only one able to train Montessori teachers. And then, when an association of people enthusiastic about your method pop up, you shut it down. Unless you're controlling everything.
We can't continue on working together, McClaw. I'm leaving. Now that the war is over and my father's dead, we have to go back to Italy. I want to see Mario again, and I've been betrayed here.
Mum!
About the Montessori method. And as we did, more and more Montessori schools began to open all over the globe. But then, in 1936, Mama had a meeting.
Miss Montessori, what's this meeting about?
Mr. Mussolini, we can't keep on working together. You gave me the responsibility of schools under your government, but I cannot work as I intended to. Your methods clash with my ideologies on education.
Is that what you said?
Yes, we have to leave now.
And the rest of the story, you know. We moved to Spain, and then the Netherlands, and then India, where we were arrested and then released by the authorities, and stayed there until 1946.
For Stefan, the rest of the story is a deepening depression. We meet as he is exiled to London. We marry, then go to the US, then Brazil. We try to start a new life. We struggle.
Everything has to end.
Telling me of your plan to revisit the classics of world literature, to shorten them and give them a more contemporary vision?
Yes, that's the project. A good 90% of these novels are of bothering length, sort of useless descriptions. They drive the contemporary reader away from them. But that's something I already do with my own books. You know, let me make a confession to you. Nothing gives me greater joy than slashing a manuscript to half its original length.
But aren't you betraying the author?
The author maybe, but not the artwork. See, these descriptions, these lengths, they are the expressions of the artist. They stem from the era they were written in, but the remaining 10%, the core, therein lies the universal.
Hence the tremendous success of your books and notably your short stories. They're so concise, they cut right to the core of the human mind.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to do.
But when does this process ever end?
It can indeed never end. A book is never fully written. You can rewrite it as many times as you want, and one mustn't underestimate the value of details to support the whole. But at some point your publisher wants to publish it, and then it's gone, it's out of your control. In some ways, you see, books are almost like children. They have their own lives, and maybe they survive us.
For I had forgotten Mandel for years. Me, who should know best that we only write books to remain connected to man. I had forgotten him. Hence books protect us from the greatest enemy of all life, time passing by and oblivion.
There ends the bookworm, as does this evening.
So that is why you mentioned we could never stop cutting words from our work. The authors themselves have never finished their book, we just pick it up from where they left off. In the end, a published book is merely
Merely a sign that all things must come to an end and one has to know when to stop.
Stefan, everything's ready.
Good. Everything is in order.
I feel as if it's my duty to write you a letter. We, wife and I, we were very close friends with Stefan and Martin. You used to tell us stories about how you all formed a little family when you were together in Bath. Stefan used to smile when we would try to cheer him up, but now when I think about it, we rarely laughed together. Dark clouds had already rose upon him, just as they had over Europe, and your sister bore a shadow upon her as well. That night, Stefan apologized for his bad mood, and we left.
We left, dear Hannah and Manfred, because life had become too unbearable. I hope you will understand. Stefan felt too old. He felt too old to take on a new life. And me, with my asthma crises, believe me, it is better this way.
The next morning, the housekeeper ended up banging on the door of their house because nobody would answer. They were found in each other's arms, just as they were asleep, and next to them, a letter.
Before I leave this life willingly, I would like to thank Brazil for how warmly it has welcomed us.
We were so happy in India. Do you remember?
Yes. You worked till 1 a.m. again, didn't you? You know you can't do that. The doctor says it's bad for your health.
There's still so much to do. We have all of the conferences that we need to prepare for our tour in Ghana, and besides, work gives me the vitality that I need to go on.
Nowhere other than here in Brazil would I have rather started my life anew once more, especially after my spiritual homeland, Europe, has destroyed itself.
Yes, well, about the conferences. The organisers, they've cancelled them.
What? Am I no longer of any use to them?
Yeah, well, you're 81 now. How do you suppose you would deal with the fatigue and the heat?
I coped with it very well in India, and as you can see, I'm still fit. It's not the number of years going by that make me grow older.
As I received the World of Yesterday manuscript, I learned about the suicide of Schweg. I want to know why he did it. I remember one of the very last letters he wrote me. You know very well how tired I am since I lost the Austria that I knew and loved. I can't get back my real life and that of my work either. I live as a nomad, and I feel as if I'm aging not because of the years going by, but because of my inner sufferings.
Mum, you've got to understand. The enthusiasm for your method, it's faded.
But everywhere we go, the crowd goes wild.
Yes, but look at what happened in the US. Because you wanted to control everything, your most devoted supporters, they turned to more, well, open methods.
But you know how important it is to prevent my method from alteration, don't you?
No? I know. I know better than most. And I will spend my life, till the day I die, defending your methods. I will teach as many people as I can about your methods. But something changed. You changed. You lost something, I don't know. Some adventurous spirit. Over the past few years you spent so much time hammering down your old ideas. You stopped making new ones. It was like you lost your relationship to the time.
It is as if I've become a child of yesterday.
That's it.
A child of yesterday who has nothing to give the world of today.
Oh, no, that's not what I meant.
But, you know, one day, I'll leave. And even though you've always been coming with me on all of my trips, always supporting me, this trip, you won't be able to follow me on.
There is nowhere that I wouldn't follow you. And that is where my mother died. We buried her here, as she wished, in this little town of Nordvik. Far away from the Italy where she grew up. A lifetime free of nationalism, you know. But no. She lays here. Because this is her home. This is where the work awaits.
In 1939, one of the most famous films of all time was released, The Wizard of Oz. In this film, Dorothy sings "Somewhere Over the Rainbow" as she dreams to travel the vast and exciting landscapes of the world. But as she encounters the twists and turns in the Kingdom of Oz, she realizes that there is no place that she'd rather be than at home with the people that she loves. As she says, there's no place like home.
After 60 years of life, one knows that you need peculiar forces to start your life anew once more. And all these years of wandering without a homeland has drained all my forces.
So is that the conclusion? That no matter how greatly you believe in universalism, that no matter how much time you spend traveling the globe, that in the end, you'll always need a home, a nation?
There is no conclusion. There are no answers from the pedagogue. Only questions. Only a push towards greater reflection.
Questions that stick to our minds. Why did you leave, Stefan?
Why did you leave? You were always right. You knew the hurricane that fell on us. You knew from the beginning there would be another world war. If you killed yourself, what hope is there for the rest of us?
But there is hope. The tide of war turns and it ends. This post-1945 world, is it anything like your world of yesterday?
All my life, Mama, I live by your example and try to spread the world the teachings of the Montessori method. But will the future generations hear what you left for them?
Yes, they do. Maria Montessori might have died in 1952, but her ideas are still revolutionary and spark tremendous interest. Educational sciences are just catching up with her work, and her observations are still relevant to this day.
Questions about that note scribbled in your papers? Only one short story from that time I keep close to my heart. It's called In Schnee, in Snow, for it has an autobiographical dimension.
Enough talking. What to do now, everyone knows. Everyone knows this resource. They all say it. Flee, we have to flee. The weapon of the weak against the mighty, a weapon as old as time, a weapon of shame, but a weapon irreplaceable. Must the Jew fight and defend themselves? Back in the days of slavery in Egypt, we must flee.
Is that why you died? To flee?
It doesn't matter why he died. What matters is what he lived for.
What did you flee all your life, Maria? How could you always be ready to leave everything behind? Where did you get your willingness to work from?
I dedicated my life to a greater cause.
I tried all my life to create a great work I never finished.
My mission kept me going. Enthusiasm moved me like it moved the millions of people inspired by my method.
Enthusiasts change the world.
I lived in the world of yesterday and its souvenir.
Too attached to what you knew.
A world of yesterday where it was still possible to live and believe in an ideal.
A world where I fought for the triumph of reason.
A world of yesterday of which we are the enthusiasts.
I knew how to stand firm in the raging hurricane of the time.
We aren't swirled by the hurricanes of the time we fight. We are individuals in the era of masses.
I leave my method as legacy.
I leave the world of yesterday as my testimony. There are thousands like us.
And many of them forgotten.
But it doesn't matter. We work. We spread their ideals. We are the very fabric of enthusiasm, that restless devotion to an ideal.
I'm a child of a bygone era. I lived all my life as for my ideals. I'm a child of yesterday.
I gave my life to children and to the children of tomorrow.